I've been told so many times that I live in my own world. And at first, that used to make me feel kind of lonely. Like, oh my God, okay, I don't live in the real world with other people. I started to realize that that was one of my biggest advantage to making things possible for myself and using that as my biggest advantage because of the fact that when your mind is not tied to the real world, then that means that you get to curate and create what is possible for you without limitation, without it being tied to what the real world or what your world is supposed to feel like and be like. And this is truly what makes it so that you can actually get to have it all and have it not just all, but have it in the exact way that you want everything in your life to manifest to the dot. Welcome back to the Power of Personal Branding and Manifestation podcast that you see in your life. Like you are literally almost like the image that I have in my head is like you are out here co-creating with the universe and you are designing the video game that you want to be walking into. And so, first thing that I have to say about this, your standard will always reveal what is allowed to be possible for you. And this is a concept that I was always aware of, but I started to be even more aware of it within the past, I'd say, 2 years of my life. Because I always heard that, okay, your standard, like, or, like the standard that you set, like, kind of reflects in your life and whatever. You always hear that, like, thing of, like, oh, like, have your standard high and everything. But what I started to realize was that not just something to uphold, it's something to believe in. And that's kind of the way that I see it now. Because before I thought, okay, like a standard is just something that you uphold, like this is the standard, whatever. But I'd say that now the way that I see it is the ability to be a picky person, almost to be picky. It's also tied to the ability to believe so strongly that exactly what you want not only exists, but is possible to obtain in the exact way that your soul is telling you is possible, in the way that your mind is craving, in the way that like you want it to happen, right? So for example, when you are able to choose, let's say, not having any friends over having some friends that are kind of nice but they don't feel like they're expanding you, they don't feel like these are not really the friends that like you really crave to have, then that ability to be picky is the proof that your mind is actually believing in the possibility, not even in the possibility, but in the certainty that like those friends do exist and you are willing to choose having nothing over having something that's half-ass what you want. And this goes for anything. For example, for myself, I'm very aware that I am not able to have friends that are just like friends for fun. Like just like, let's just hang out and like, no. Like I need friends who can meet me where I am, who doesn't just expand me and challenge me. They can have deep conversation. They can have conversations that are inspiring. I know exactly what I want, and I also know that this exists, right? And so I'm not going to settle for something that I see as kind of like filling half of the cup that I want. And so the same applies for, let's say, if you genuinely believe that there are so many premium clients that are available in abundance, like they're not limited, right? You don't have to say yes to the wrong clients or keep accepting clients that like don't fuel you because you're terrified that other ones won't come, or that more premium clients don't exist, or that they're not already in your world. And this is also something that showed up for me personally in my journey with my business, which was that I always used to believe that like, you build a very successful business with blood, sweat, and tears, until I started to realize that if I kept making that the standard, then that made it impossible for anything else to pour in, right? It was kind of like, okay, again, kind of like half-ass what I wanted. And so that's, I think, what started to make me realize that, like, it's not just about setting up your standard, it's about believing in your standards and being so picky to the point where it's like, you're literally being like, okay, how am I going to make this happen? And then, because of the fact that you are not available for all of these other things, you are being divinely protected to not have those things pour in. And now I see that when you're not only able to set a standard, but actually believe in the standard that you truly want to have, not the one that the real world told you to have, right? My example with like business is like blood, sweat, and tears. It's like that's when you become available for what is next, and you're no longer freaking out about this thing that like doesn't actually match the exact standard that you want to be pouring in. And that's when you start to be divinely almost like protected and guided, which can sometimes feel like rejection, right? Like, let's say you're like, oh my god, this client like didn't want to go with me, or like this client like didn't go, or like this friend like it didn't work or whatever. And it's like that is actually you being guided towards the exact thing that like you want to be pouring in. And that is so important to remember. For me, I'm very aware that I can grind my way to the top and take care of my burnouts, which I had done for a very a very long time. And it worked technically, right? But I realized that I didn't want that to be my reality anymore. I didn't want that to be the world that was reflected. That's not the world that I wanted to live in anymore. I have learned for so long that um in the real world, like, people build their businesses from like, oh my god, like this was very much me, like blood, sweat, and tears, like wanting to prove myself, wanting to be like, look, I can do it, until I realized, oh wait, I can actually be as passionate, as driven, not from blood, sweat, and tears, but from like passion and excitement, and not like killing myself. Like, oh my god. And that was like, almost like it felt like scary. It felt scary to believe that that was the truth, because I was stepping out of the limitation of the real world that I had been living in. And this is what brings me to my next point, which is that we all live inside the reality that we have created, essentially. Which, this is where it gets really interesting, okay? You create the world in which you live in, that then determines what transpire from that world. This is the same when I think of like the law of attraction, right? Like, everyone is familiar with the law of attraction, which is like, whatever works hand in hand gets attracted. Okay? What you will focus on the most will eventually affect your reality, and either make more of that reality, or change that reality. And this is where it can be fun, because, for example, like in my world, okay, I believe that everyone wants to support me, that my dream clients are always meant to find me, that everyone is going to be supportive. And is that the whole truth, the whole entire truth, that like everyone is going to be supportive? Maybe not. But I won't notice it outside of my world, because I'm not a match for that energy. I'm not a match for unsupportive things. And so I'm not going to allow it to have so much space in my mind, and I'm going to have so much more focus on the things that does make me feel supported. Every single time that I invest my money, or that I spend my money, I always think in my mind, this will come back. That's the reality that I live in. That's the reality that I've curated. And so I look for evidence of that, which inevitably makes it happen. Like, it makes it a reality, and it makes me believe even more that my world is serving me. It starts making it possible for you to take the very action that makes it so that you get to manifest the evidence that your brain has accepted as its worldview. I'm getting kind of like very philosophical today, but oh my god, it is needed. Oh my god, is this needed? You will always find proof of what you believe in because your mind always wants to prove us right. Like your mind is always out here like wanting to prove you right, wanting to be like, yeah, you're right, like looking for evidence, looking that is good or bad, right? And so might as well make it serve you the most. This is an amazing story that I sometimes think about because I see myself so much in it. And this was a while ago. So one of my clients came to me, and even though I help women with building a very powerful personal brand that sells them, um, she came to me and she was like, "Listen, like I feel like my family doesn't really support me, or I don't really feel supported." And I had been in that place too, which is, when I was younger, when I was 17, 18, 19, even like up to 20. And she also had heard the narrative of people around you won't understand, or like don't expect them to support you, don't expect people to support your business, like whatever, whatever, right? But instead of reinforcing that reality, I challenged it. And I literally said, okay, but what if they do want to support you, but they just don't know how yet because you're entering this new territory that they've never had to navigate through, and like they don't know how to like meet you there, and like, and so what if they do want to support you, but maybe they just don't know how to show it yet. Right there, that almost like opened the vortex to making the brain look for possibility that maybe you are being supported, maybe not in the way that you want, you know? And I do get it because I have been there, and I have felt that need for like, oh my god, I don't feel supported, I don't feel like whatever. But essentially, the more that you look for evidence that you are being supported, the more you're becoming a match. And the more that it's funny, the more that you feel almost like divinely supported. The truth is that there are so many people rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. There are so many women in this community rooting for you. There's so many people around you that, like, I feel like this is a little side note, but like, we are so much more supported than we think. And we are not only divinely guided to like our mission and like our business, but like, we are so much more supported than we think. Like, as an entrepreneur, I feel like we think our journey is very unique. And granted, yes, in some way it is, but I don't think it's that unique to the point where everyone longs for that support. And I think that the more, again, that like that that moment when I told her this, of like, maybe they are supportive but they just don't know how to, or maybe they're just kind of like, what is happening right now, right? And she got to see, when she came back on another call, she was like, oh, remember that thing that I told you? Actually, I saw that like I did feel supported, maybe not like in this exact way that I wanted, but I saw that like, this person made the my family made this comment that like they wanted to be helpful or whatnot. And so, it's like, yes, like you start to see this evidence. And I think that like this was one of the biggest thing for me that started to make me feel like, oh my god, I want this reality to be part of my world, which is that I feel supported, which is that I believe that other people are rooting for me, which is that I believe that there's so much support around me. And it's not to say, again, like, it's not to say that I'm denying the fact that maybe there are people rooting for me, or maybe there are, like, you know what I mean? But then I become a match to have that reflected in what shows up for me. The moment that you step outside of a reality that you have accepted as like the fact, then you become available for evidence that contradicts it. And this is great when you want to get rid of things that are not serving you, right? That like your mind is looking for evidence that is not actually serving you at your greatest state, for your greatest potential. And so the way that we curate our world is exactly what makes more things possible and more things pour in the exact way that you want it to show up in. I had started to look at, which was what are the things that I've decided is just how it is. Like, okay, this is how it is. That here's the tricky part that I have inherited, that I didn't even consciously choose. Like it was just like inherited. And I'm like, wait, this sucks. I don't want this. Right? Which is number one for me on my list was I have to kill myself over my business. That was the very peak of the culture when I started my business when I was 17. It was hustle bros. That was the culture, girl boss babe, like that era. And it was not very balanced. It was very like die, right? Um Push yourself to the max and burn out almost, okay? It's not entirely bad because it did so much for me, right? But I was like, okay, maybe there can be a better middle ground for this, and I don't have to carry what I do with guilt or with this feeling of, oh, you're not killing yourself, therefore you're falling behind, right? I think that this is where it gets to be fun, which is kind of like looking at the stuff that essentially are not even yours, that like you didn't even pick, you kind of just ride the wave and you're just in it and you're like, wait, wait, no. I get to have it all and I get to have it exactly how I want it to be. So maybe for you, it's, that success requires burnout like me or in the past, right? Or that people won't understand you or they won't understand your vision. Or maybe that, you need to convince people to buy and that's the way that it is, right? And all of these things and then deciding like what is it that you want to be true, that then gets to manifest important because of the fact that I uphold that belief. Okay, and so belief number one is around money. I assume that people value quality in the same way that I do. Like when we think of like the law of attraction, right? Like if I am living in this reality where people value quality, they value big investment because they know they care about the quality, they care about what they're getting, then the law of attraction says that there's no place for the cheap, broke people to come in, right? That's how the law of attraction works. And this is what happens when you really get so curated with your belief. And so this is belief number one, because again, like these belief that you uphold, like they can't really coexist with everything else. With like, for example, let's say that like you have that belief around money too, which is like you value quality, you assume that other people value quality, that they want to spend their money where it's worth and they want to spend, key aspect here, okay? You are not a match for the people who are out here to just save their money. Second belief that is one of my favorite is what I told previously, which is that I assume that people want to support me. This is something that I think literally changed my life because I used to really hear this too. This is a narrative that you hear so much, even on social media. Sometimes, like I hear these people, let's say you're starting your business or like they've made it with their big business, and like now they're like, oh yeah, like when I started, nobody supported me or nobody believed in me, and I think that can be true. But I also think that again, like I want to believe in things that genuinely makes my life better. And when I hear those narrative, like I'm like, wow, like it does not feel like it, like I hear pain. Like you know what I mean? I hear pain when I hear that. Most powerful belief, I think, is truly being like assuming that people are rooting for you. People maybe that you didn't even know are following you. They're following your page, they're following your journey, and they are maybe not out here screaming and cheering at the front row, but they are rooting for you. They're like, oh my God, this girl is so cool, or like whatever, because I have seen it firsthand with one of my friend that, you know, she didn't tell a girl that like she was following her and everything, and she was like really rooting for her, and she would talk to me about this girl and be like, oh my god, she's so inspiring and everything, right? But this is the thing, is like sometimes people are rooting for you, you just don't always know it, or that you are always being divinely supported. And like I am supportive of other people just in the way that I believe other people are supportive about me. And so yeah, I think that is one of the really, really powerful beliefs that you can have. And in correlation to that is also having the belief to assume that your content is meant to reach exactly who it's meant to at the exact right time. To assume that like your dream clients come in abundance, that you never need to convince them of anything, right? Because like they are just going to be sold on you, on the fact that like your offer is so good, you are so good, you are selling yourself so good that they don't need any convincing. They already know, okay, I know, I see exactly why I need that girl, right? And the third belief is to know that everything comes in abundance. Your premium clients, they come in abundance. There is no limit to it. There is no like limit to opportunities. There is no limit to, oh, you missed that one thing, you missed that event, you missed that boat. Okay, like you will have more. Like they come in abundance. And I think that like, believing that things show up in abundance allows you to actually attract more of that abundance, to be available to actually spot more opportunities, because you're not so focused on the things that are left behind, or the things that like are no longer there. And something that I started to do more and more is looking at what I'm currently accepting that doesn't belong in the world that I'm trying to create. So, a perfect example that I've actually had today was that I had experienced this like divine guidance from the universe to like have check up on someone, and like that person was like, oh my god, that's literally insane, because I really needed that on that exact day. Like I needed a message, um you know, for that day. Like I needed that support on that exact day, and I just had this intuition that this person needed that on that very day. And I told myself, oh my God, that is crazy. And then I started to think, and I'm like, wait, I don't want my intuition to be something that I describe as crazy. I want it to describe as amazing. Like it is amazing to have that universal guidance, and it is an amazing thing. So that, you know, the fact that like I was describing it as like something that's crazy is not something that I want to belong in my world that I'm trying to create, which is to really embrace my belief, to embrace my intuition, to embrace my faith. And so I was like, okay, like, you know, and it can be like small things, or it can be bigger things. You can literally start listing, okay, like what doesn't belong in the world that I want to experience, right? Not the real world, your world. What if you being selective and picky isn't a bad thing? It's actually a good thing, right? Like we talked about with the standard, like being picky. I think that honestly, being picky is one of the biggest sign that you are meant for so much more abundance, because that tells me right there, okay, like you're someone who's not willing to settle. Like you're someone who rather have nothing than like something that's half-ass what you want, because you know exactly, you have so much belief in yourself that like you know exactly that what you want is right there waiting for you, and all you have to do is keep going. Okay, side note, but yeah. Okay, like what would I choose if I truly fully trusted that exactly what I want already exists, it's already on its way, it's already coming, it's available for me, not just for anyone else, like for me, regardless of how someone preaches it's possible, regardless of how someone, maybe you look up to someone and they preach, oh my god, it's like this is the only way, but maybe that's not the way that you want it to be. You don't want to be manifesting your business in that way, you don't want it to be manifesting your client in that way, or whatever, right? um Same with your life and your friends and whatever, right? This can apply to literally so many things. I fully know how lack can change someone's decision, or fear can really change someone's decision, even if it's like a small fear of like, okay, well, I'm going to accept this payment from this client that's not really aligned because I'm scared that if I don't, then they're gonna leave me a bad review, or they're gonna say something bad that's gonna ruin my reputation, like whatever, right? I think that lack changes our decision, whereas like when we lean into abundance and trust, um, like it makes you available to receive the exact thing that like you are asking for. And this is like such a powerful question to ask yourself, which is, if you genuinely believe that there is so much more available than you can currently see, what would you allow yourself to want, or to choose, or to not choose? Right? Like, oh my god, this is so good. I'm sorry. Like, I'm literally fangirling over my conversation because this is so good. And for me, this truly looks like trusting my decisions, knowing that I'm following my gut instinct, even if it looks like it makes no fucking sense to anyone else. Even if it looks like I am making a decision that almost like never allowing myself to feel stupid for a decision, or feel shame for a decision that in my gut I know is right. And maybe it's not what someone else would do. Maybe it's not what other people around me would do, but it's like truly trusting that I know exactly who else knows better what I want than me? No one. And so I think that like fully trusting so deeply your intuition, your gut feeling, your sense of like, like your soul knows exactly what you want, and you're not out here trying to prove it. Like, you just are acting on it and trusting your gut. Like, that is so powerful. I've had so many people say, clients, guest events that I've had on the podcast or whatnot, like I've had many people tell me that when they find my content, like my podcast, they feel like they're entering this like different world. And this is exactly the point. Because something that I've never said before is, yes, I've talked about, creating your own world when it comes to your content, when it comes to, people enter your social media and it feels like a different world. But I think that one of the things that I've never mentioned is that why it feels so powerful, right? When people enter a different world is because, for example, for me with this podcast, I'm not just creating a different world for people to immerse themselves in, like, I'm letting people into my world, right? And I think that's why it feels so different when you are trying to create a world that's like, oh, look, this is my page, versus like the way that I see this, it's not just like about content. The way that I see it is like I'm letting other people borrow my goggles of how I see the world, how I live my life, how I lead myself, how I make decisions. This is the thing like that I realize is like I'm not just building a world online, like I am my world. Like I am sharing my world with other people. And I think that the more that we can immerse ourselves into our world, the more that we feel like everything that gets reflected is exactly how it's supposed to be. Like I can't explain. Like this is the sentence that pops up in my head is like having it all. Like that is what pops up in my head, like having it all. And that I think is what happens when you have curated your world to be exactly what you want it to be, and not the reality, not the real world, but just what you want it to be in every single aspect, in your belief, in your standard, in the way of thinking, in the way that you lead yourself, that you get to curate and not only have fun with, but also like weed out the things that you already know like is not a match for the the experience that you want to be living in, like the things that you want to have or how you want things to be, because you do get to have it all, and you get to have it exactly the way that you want it to pour into your life, in your business, in your life, in your relationship, in literally all the aspects. And so, listen, I hope that you got so much from this episode, from this conversation. I had so much fun. I feel like you really got a bigger peek inside my mind and how I think. And so, hopefully, this makes you think, like, this makes you and how you can have it all. If you know someone who absolutely needs to hear this, then send it to her and let her know that you were thinking about her. And something else that I want to mention is that I now have a sections under every single episode, which is called similar episode, so that you can tune into similar episode if you've enjoyed this one and really start binging and eating up at all the juices that we drop on this episode. So definitely check it out, and I'll see you here next week. Thanks so much for tuning in, and don't forget to leave your 5-star rate and review on the podcast. I love to know what you guys think of the episodes, and I will meet you here next week.